Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today we are going to start Unit 3 Village Studies in India. So far we have learnt about the social background of the emergence of sociology in India, its later development and growth, and some major issues and themes of research. Village studies during the 1950s and 1960s constituted a major area of concern, and several monographs and papers were published. During this period of growth and professionalization of the discipline. In the present unit, we will learn more about these village studies. The village occupies an important place in the social and cultural landscape of contemporary India. Notwithstanding India's significant industrialization over the last 5 or 6 decades and a considerable increase in its urban population, a large majority of Indians continues to live in its more than 5 lakh villages and remain dependent on agriculture, directly or indirectly. According to 2001 census, the rural India accounted for nearly 72% of India's total population. Similarly, though the share of agriculture has come down to around one-fourth of the total national income, nearly half of the India's working population is directly employed in the agriculture sector. Apart from it being an important demographic and structural reality characterizing contemporary India, the village has also been an important ideological category, a category through which India has often been imagined and imaged in modern time. The village has been seen as the ultimate signifier of the authentic native life, a place where one could see or observe the real India and develop an understanding of the way local people organize their social relationships and belief system. As Andre Batley writes, the village was not merely a place where people lived. It had a design in which were reflected the basic values of Indian civilization. Institutional patterns of Indian village communities and their cultural values were supposed to be an example of what in the 20th century came to be known as traditional society. This unit will provide us an overview of the tradition of village studies among sociologists and social anthropologists in India. Apart from looking at the manner in which village social life was studied, the methods used and issue focused on, the unit will also offer an critical assessment of the tradition of Indian village studies. Now let us move to the point historical background. Though one may find detailed references to village life in an ancient and medieval time, it was during the British colonial rule that an image of the Indian village was constructed by the colonial administrators that was to have far-reaching implications, ideological as well as political, for the way Indian society was to be imagined in the times to come. Along with the earlier writings of James Mill, Charlie Mackle's notion of the Indian village community set the tone for much of the later writings on rural India. Metcalfe, in his celebrated remarks, stated that the Indian village communities were little republic, having nearly everything they wanted within themselves and almost independent of foreign relations. They seemed to last where nothing else lasted. Dynasty after dynasty tumbled down, revolution succeeded revolution, but the village community remained the same. Though not all colonial administrators shared Metcalfe's assessment of the Indian village, it nevertheless became the most popular and influential representation of India. The Indian village in the colonial discourse was a self-sufficient community with communal ownership of land and was marked by a functional integration of various occupational groups. Things as diverse as stagnation, simplicity, and social harmony were attributed to the village, which was taken to be the basic unit of Indian civilization. Each village was an inward artisanal community, self-sufficient in its economy, patriarchal in its governance, surrounded by an outer one of other hostile villages and despotic government. In many ways, even in the nationalist discourse, the idea of the village as a representative of authentic native life was derived from the same kind of imagination. Though Gandhi was careful enough not to glorify the decaying village of British India, he nevertheless celebrated the so-called simplicity and authenticity of village life, an imaginary image largely derived from the colonial representation of the Indian village. The decadence of the village was seen to be a result of colonial rule, and therefore village reconstruction was, along with political independence, an important process for recovery of the lost self. In post-independence India also, the village has continued to be treated as the basic unit of Indian society. Among the academic traditions, the study of the village was perhaps been the most popular among the sociologists and social anthropologists working on India. They carried out a large number of studies focusing on the social and cultural life of the village in India. Most of these studies were published during the decades 1950s and 1960s. These village studies played an important role in giving respectability to the disciplines of sociology and social anthropology in India, generally basing their accounts on first-hand field work carried out mostly in a single village. Social anthropologists focused on the structures of social relationship, institutional pattern, beliefs, and value system of the rural people. The publication of these studies also marked the beginning of a new phase in the history of the Indian social sciences. They showed for the first time the relevance of a field work based understanding of Indian society, or what came to be known as the field view of India, different from then dominant book view of India, which was developed by Indologists and Orientalists from classical Hindu sculptures. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.